Hi, I'm Jacqueline Rinksmeyer, Executive Director of the Greater Medina Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for joining us today to watch our annual Candidates Forum. We do this event in partnership with Medina TV, and I'm here today with General Manager Jared Fry.
Thank you, Jacqueline. You will notice today, as Jacqueline and I do not have our mask on, and as I interview these candidates, I will not be wearing a mask, nor will the candidates. We are following all the Department of Health guidelines in regards to spatial distancing, and with being on air and doing a broadcast, masks are not required.
All candidates in local contested races were invited to participate in these interviews. This forum is designed to inform the voting public of their choices in the upcoming election.
The views and opinions stated by the candidates during the course of these interviews are not necessarily those of Medina TV and the Greater Medina Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for exercising your right to vote in the upcoming election. Enjoy the Candidates Forum.
Now joining us in studio is Joyce Kimbler, the incumbent for Medina County Court of Common Pleas judge. So Joyce, thank you for joining us here today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, we're glad to have you. And for those of you that are residents or voters that may not have a chance to have met you yet, why don't you just take a few minutes and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I am the incumbent. I was first elected and took office January 1st of 2015, so I've been in that position for 6 years. Previously, I did litigation for Nationwide Insurance as a trial attorney. I did that for 29 years. So basically, I explained that if you were sued and you happened to have, you were wise enough to purchase insurance, I was the person who came in and sued you and represented you when you were afraid and scared in the court. So now I'm on the other side of the bench.
And speaking of the other side of the bench, why don't you discuss a little bit of the role of a municipal, or geez, I'm going to get them right here, Common Pleas court judge. There we go.
Well, it's interesting because most of us get our ideas about what judges do from watching television, and most of that is criminal law. And while criminal law takes up the most of our time, probably 80% of our time, actually the largest part of our docket is the civil docket. So in a common pleas court, it's any case in controversy, and there's no bottom, but generally it's $15,000 and above. And on criminal matters, it's all felonies. Mm-hmm. So that's what we do on a day-to-day basis. Then there's a lot of administrative work to keep up with the paperwork required by the Supreme Court of Ohio and other duties that we do that are more administrative in nature.
Mm-hmm. So what do you see right now would be the biggest issue or concern with the judicial system right now?
Well, it depends on if you're talking like philosophically about, that the issues of racial injustice, or if you're talking about the practicalities about getting back in the courtroom and doing a jury trial during COVID-19.
Well, we can actually do both. Let's start with the second one first, and we'll go back to your first one a little bit later.
We actually met with the health commissioner and went through the courtroom and identified what we needed to do to be COVID-19 ready. Mm-hmm. So we have installed plexiglass partitions. We have installed social distancing. We have hand sanitizers. We have gone through and put in place precautions so that when we can do a jury trial, we can make sure that everybody in the courtroom will be safe during that process. We've actually done some civil matters that were quite heavy. They had 10 or 15 witnesses, 10 or 15 attorneys. Those were kind of like our trial runs, and we were able to successfully complete those without putting anyone at risk. So I think that in a couple of weeks, we'll probably be doing a jury trial. We did send out questionnaires to people, letting them know what we've put in place to keep them safe, and also indicating to them that if they have any questions or concerns, there's a number that they can call, because we don't want anyone coming in and worrying about their health and safety. But I indicated that when I called a grand jury back in March, out of 80 people called, 8 people showed up. Oh. And you can't do a grand jury with less than 12 or 13 people. So it is important that people feel safe coming into the courthouse.
Right. Now, back to the first point you brought up, too, and I'll kind of expand on that a little bit, too, with the social injustice with LGBTQ and then also racial injustice. How do you think that applies with Common Pleas and what you see come into your courtroom?
Well, Common Pleas is kind of like the first step in the trial process for anything that's not municipal in level, that's not local in level. So I give a lot of credit to our Ohio Supreme Court Justice, Maureen O'Connor, because she has come out recently with a lot of position statements about the need of the court to be upfront in dealing with these issues so that people have confidence in their local courts. Mm-hmm. As I indicated, we are trial courts, which means we are where you come to have your disputes adjudicated. And so it is important that anyone coming into the courthouse feels like they are going to get a fair shake. You know, as Americans, that's how we decide disputes. We bring them to court. We don't have duels. We trust each other enough with up to life or death decisions. But there has to be an underlying sense that everybody is going to be treated fairly.
And I think a lot of that is guided by precedent and previous cases. It's not just, I guess, well, you could clarify that better. A judge is not necessarily the one up there just saying, I want to convict because of, that's the way I feel. You have things that kind of help guide you in your decisions, correct? Well,
correct. And in fact, in a trial process, it's the jury that makes the decisions about guilt or innocence or responsibility for the accident or not. So the finder of fact in a matter is the jury. So you're bringing in your fellow citizens who are going to sit in judgment. They're going to listen to the facts presented to them and determine, is the person guilty or innocent? Is the person at fault or are they not? So the role of the judge is more limited in that, for instance, in the criminal setting, then we take the considerations set forth in the statute, we apply them to the particular case, and we determine what the appropriate sentence would be.
Yeah, thank you. Now, in terms of you being the incumbent, you've already had time on the bench, but are there projects or things you would like to see done? Maybe try to think of three, if you could. Three different things you would like to see done if given another term.
If I were to identify three things that I would like to accomplish in my second term, the first one would be to expand our pretrial programming. What we have done is, you've probably heard in other counties and throughout the nation, issues regarding pretrial and bond issues. And in fact, there's been a lot of lawsuits that have been filed, and in most of those lawsuits, the plaintiffs have won. And so to avoid any type of liability, any type of lawsuits, we have examined what we do with people on the pretrial bond issues. We put in place a pretrial bond officer. We put in place surveys and assessments for that person to use, and so that we can make an intelligent and informed decision about how to appropriately give a bond in any situation. So I would like to expand that even into, right now we only have one person for all the people who come in. I'd like to expand that program. Secondly, I do have a Supreme Court certified drug court docket and mental health court docket. Both of those dockets are doing a lot of good. I would like to, if possible, expand into other types of specialized dockets. Thinking right now maybe a veterans court docket. We have quite a few veterans that live in the county, and it's hard to identify exactly when they are involved in the court system, because usually veterans are people that are very modest. So if you say to them, you know, are you a veteran? They'll go, oh no. But you say, do you have any military service? And they will say, oh yes. And so it's learning how to ask the questions, phrase the questions, and create a docket that is appropriate for that person. And then finally, if I was going to do a third project, I'm interested in working with the Ohio Supreme Court on their sentencing criteria that they're putting into place. The justice just last week announced a program where they're going to be collecting the sentencings in the various counties to make sure that we have equity across the state. Here in Medina County, we collect the information kind of post-sentence. So in our probation department, we know how many people we have on probation. We know what they are on probation for. We know what the sentences were. We know something about their demographics. And I would like to expand that program in conjunction with the Ohio Supreme Court.
Okay, great. Now, one of the big projects that's going on right now is the talks regarding the Courthouse project. I know some of it's going to be decided in November with an issue on the ballot for the city, but in terms of looking at it from the county perspective and as a judge, what are your thoughts about this project?
Well, as I tell people, if it was just my thoughts, my particular courtroom is beautiful. I invite anyone to come and see it at any time. It's a public space, and you should come and see how beautiful it is. However, there are problems with the building itself. And I respect the division of government. It's the commissioner's job to give us the appropriate building for the common pleas court, and so I will defer to them on what they think is the appropriate cost to be involved. Those are their decisions. But as one of my roles as the administrative judge, I did order a physical security assessment of the Medina County Courthouse back in 2018 for the architects to use. And what is important to me is that they found specific safety issues that needed to be dealt with, such as the barriers, the traffic patterns, the fact that at some points you had the people that were getting out on bond intermingling with the people that were there to get marriage certificates. So as a result of the survey that was done by the Ohio Supreme Court, we did provide this information to the architects, and I have seen over the plans as they've developed that they have incorporated a lot of these safety issues. Also, one of the problems that you have with the courthouse is that there's a lot of mold and asbestos. I mean, parts of it are an old building that are falling apart, and that was a worry for the health and safety of the employees. Now, if you just want to see how pretty our courthouse is, the Ohio Supreme Court did do a documentary on the Medina County Courthouse. If you go to the Ohio Supreme Court's website, and they did them on all 88 counties, you can find Medina's, and you can see the history of our courthouse and how beautiful it is.
Oh, wow, didn't know that. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, you really do.
Very interesting. Now we get to talk a little bit about yourself a little bit here. So I guess as you look, looking back over your last term, how do you believe the county has benefited under your leadership of the court?
It's hard to sometimes say how they benefited from my leadership, because I don't want in any way imply any criticism of the prior leadership, specifically since that was my husband. But we have very different personalities, very different ways of approaching things. I come from a business background, so when I came in, one of the first things I did was I established a lot of metrics and a lot of protocols so that there is a way of doing everything and we can measure what we're doing. We do everything based on evidence-based practices so that we know that what we are doing, why we are doing it, and what the possible outcomes are. I think that we have created a system where we're having a very positive impact on the community in that, on 4th and 5th degree felonies pursuant to the statute, most people aren't going to go to prison. That's the way the statute is set up. So they're going to be here locally. So how are we going to make our community better by making those people better and less likely to recidivate? We have a lot of programming that we've instituted in the last 6 years that was not there previously, so that when people, especially on 4th and 5th degree felonies, come in, we can get them assessed, we can find out what their needs are, and we can get them into programming, and hopefully 2 years down the line, we're putting them back into the community as a better person. Even a person who goes on and goes to prison, most of them come back to your community. So the job, I think, of a judge is a problem-solving job. What caused this person to commit this particular crime, and what is the best way to figure out how to change the behavior so they don't do it again?
All right, so I'll come at the question a little differently then to take the pressure off you. I guess as you're looking to run again as being the incumbent, if elected, what skill set, leadership skills, experience that you think you have that differs from your opponent?
Being a drug court judge changes the judge, and that is not unique to me. That was actually what was taught to me my David Mattia, a drug court judge up in Cuyahoga County, who was my mentor. Because when you're a drug court judge, you begin to look at everything through problem-solving spectrum. So it's not just a matter of the case comes in and you put it on the docket and it works its way through, and at the end you go, okay, it's a felony of the 3rd degree, here's the possible sanctions, and boom, you're off. But instead, you go with every case, not just those on your specialty dockets, again to say, why is this case in front of me, and what can we do in this particular case to solve this problem so that it doesn't occur again? And I think that that is a skill that you develop as an incumbent that someone coming into the system new might not have.
Okay. And again, we're speaking with Joyce Kimbler, the incumbent for the Medina County Court of Common Pleas judge. And again, thank you for answering my questions, but I want to give you a moment that you can sit and talk directly to the voters. So I will turn the mic over to you and let you talk to the voters.
Again, it goes back to the fact that as the incumbent, I think that I've had a very positive impact on our community from pretrial to sentencing and beyond. We have tried to set up a continuum of justice here in Medina County so that when a person is first arrested, they are assessed by a pretrial bond officer who goes in and determines what needs do they have, and if we put them out on bond, what programming can we get them into so we can start to address the problems even before we get into the system. At the end of the system, if you've gone into community control sanctions, more commonly known as probation. Again, what is the programming that you are getting from us that means that you're going to come out a better person and we're going to improve the quality of life in Medina County? And then once you're done, we don't just dump you on the street, but we have instituted the Recovery Center of Medina County, which completes the continuum of treatment for people who have been involved with the criminal justice system here in Medina County. We have Serenite, the Culinary Institute, which was instituted to give people who are in recovery an opportunity to learn skills, not just entry-level skills, but professional skills, so that the community can see that people, their brothers, their sisters, their neighbors, people who have addiction issues can overcome those issues. They can live happy, healthy lives in recovery and go on to have meaningful careers. And that is how I believe that I have helped Medina County over the last 6 years, and I hope to expand that over the next 6 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, that's Joyce Kimbler, the incumbent for Medina County Court of Common Pleas judge. I always usually like to end with a nice handshake to wish you the best of luck, but knowing these days I cannot, so either a fist bump or elbow for you there.
Thank you.
And I wish you the best of luck this November.
Thank you so much.